Hello, hello. Welcome back to my new episode on From Grind to Grace. And today I'm going to have a guest again. And I'm super excited about this guest because she's my Baltic sister from Estonia. And we just chatted about a little bit about our history and the common history that we had, the exit from the Soviet Union, and all those kind of things. We'll see, maybe that will come up in our conversation with her again, because it's all about freedom, can you believe it? And so just on that note, this podcast is about freedom. This podcast is for the alternative entrepreneur, a person who goes for the unlimited potential, but refuses to do things the way everyone else is doing just because everyone else is doing them, and questions the norm, and ultimately chooses to build a business that feels like freedom in the process. And the so-called tangible results are just the byproduct. So again, welcome and let's play. So my guest, her name is Maris, and she is so super cool, and you're gonna see it. And when I asked her to send me a very quick intro about her, that she wants me to tell about her, you know what she said? She said, maybe hypnotherapy trainer, master in behavioral neurosciences, and a published author. And because I knew her already, I'm like, are you serious? Don't forget to mention your achievements, right? So then she sent me the real intro, and just see how different that sounds. Okay, here is the real one. Therapist, published author, digital marketer, photographer, deep motivator, master in behavioral neurosciences, and a mom who will nourish your insights with depth, psychology, and her love for life. Here is what she says after that. I'm the youngest therapist who has had her own breakthrough TV series, The Hypnotist, psychological published author, the best wedding photographer in 2013, and runner-up in 2014, best home chef in 2011, and an overall high achiever. Can you imagine? She was gonna skip this all, right? She continues, ever since a little child, I have wanted to be the best in the world in my area, or I have chosen something else to passionately follow, and I encourage everyone to do the same. I want to show you that you actually can have everything in life when you know your steps. You just need a map, courage, and patience, and your journey inwards. Your journey inwards. Very welcome. Thanks for coming on my show, Maris. Super happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me. And as I'm modest, just let me be modest for all of these achievements or all of these things that you pointed out. they feel normal to me. I know that when you read them out loud, they seem so big and so prestigious, but for me, they're just, well, I did that. Now, what's next?
I totally hear you. However, first of all, I'm super delighted to have somebody like you on my podcast with all this stuff. And for what it's worth, the title, the achiever, those kind of things, they are all cool, but what does that say? And I believe they tell a story.
That's true.
They tell a story. And I believe that the listener, my audience, and we need a story. because I don't believe that there haven't been ups and downs. I don't believe there haven't been twists. I don't believe there hasn't been stress, maybe depression, maybe something else, so what we really want to hear is the story behind all of this, because people learn from stories and people get encouragement from stories, so that's why this is so significant to me personally, and then on the other note as well, just to continue this, I want to sort of infuse the sense of self-worth into people. And I know that especially a lot of women, that's what they say. It's just my job. And I used to be like that in corporate. It's just my job. I always self-appraised much lower than my manager would, you know. I'm just doing my job, right? Apparently was not very useful for me, to think that way. So let's dive into some of this stuff. And of course, like I said, I would like to hear where you started. How the hell did you evolve into all of this thing that you have achieved and still doing more things as far as I know? So tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I don't know if I can tell a little. I can tell a lot. And
Tell whatever is needed.
that's one ride of a story you're gonna be in for. But well, let's go for it. So I always like to start the story with me growing up in a science lab. My dad is a scientist and innovator scientist of the year as from 2 years ago, I think. Yeah, so it's the whole Europe voted. He's the innovator scientist of the year 2 years ago.
So he was the
But
scientist in the Soviet Union, just for the context.
yeah,
Because
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So I grew up in his lab with all the tubes and all the tests and just ran around and I was curious as children are, but I was allowed to be curious. Well, I didn't put my fingers everywhere where they could be crushed, or didn't put them in acid, as I was told what's in those tubes and so on. But it really fueled the curiosity and the sense of not quitting when it gets tough, because all of these people in that lab, or when he was teaching in university, or when I saw my mom pushing really hard at jobs, I watched my parents growing up and not quitting. So I was brought up with the mentality of you pursue what you love and you keep on going and going and going. So it's kind of the equivalent of grind, You go with it, you go with it, you go with it, you go with it. And I went with it. I pursued my passion for photography, and I was asked to photograph my first wedding at 17 with my friends. And then, as it so happened, I became a photographer. Started photographing weddings more and more and more, and the word just grew from there. And I started teaching photography just before I got the award. I think I was 24 at that time. And then from photography, it naturally went into marketing, social media marketing,
Because you
communication.
needed to market your photography.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah. And I was also studying in the university to become a journalist and a PR agent. So, all together with that, it just so happened that I got pregnant. And unexpected. I was just told a month before getting pregnant by my gynecologist that whenever you want to have babies, Maris, it's going to be so difficult because of polycystic ovary syndrome and so on and so on. So it's like, it's going to be difficult for you. A month after that, I'm pregnant. I had my child, and I think it was 3 or 4 months after having my child, I got postpartum depression. I'm tearing up. I'm sorry for that. It was a really hard time for me with all the confusion, all the rumination going on inside the brain of not being a good enough of a mother because you're tired all the time, losing all the motivation or even will to live. Thankfully, at that time, the child's father is an amazing person, and he was there to support me. And I got help from the most curious of places. I reached out to a hypnotherapist because I tried all the other therapies, all the other.
Sorry, did you understand you had this condition?
No, no.
Okay.
I went to see a psychologist, and then I knew that, aha, this is a condition. I'm not ill. It's like, it's just a thing that happens. But I did not get any help. I just got more information about what it is. Went to see all the doctors, went to do breathing exercises. What else? There were many therapies I tried, but the one that called out to me was hypnosis. I tried hypnosis, and I had one online session, and all was well again from one session.
Online.
Online, yeah,
Mm.
from a, with an awesome Norwegian woman. So there was a language barrier, slight accent as well.
Mhm.
And one session changed so much that I decided that if I can get me 2 feet on the ground, rooted in science, no other world, no energy, nothing there, just 2 feet on the ground. If I can get help, I want to learn that as well, because that may be a thing for people. So I checked up all the places where I could possibly learn that, and they were all too slow for me. 3 years, 4 years, 2 years, even a year is too much. I want it now.
Mm.
So I found a place in London, and they allowed me to be there only for a short time, and I could do it online, mostly online. I got my certification. I started practicing, and to my surprise, I saw that people actually get help. So the more I practiced, the more I wanted to spread the word. I contacted magazines, I contacted newspapers. They did stories. One thing led to another. I got approached by a producer saying that, hey, do you want to do a TV show? Because I was mortified. Me, TV show. I gotta think about it. And my now ex-husband, but then husband, said that, hey, Maris, what do you have to lose? I thought that the only thing I can lose is my dignity, but I can get that back. So just let's go with it.
Very good. I love that. I love that. Serious, like honestly, like what is the worst that can happen?
Mhm.
Lose your dignity, and when you think about it, among what kind of people does it even matter, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, wow. Love it.
yeah. And that's where the story went. Of course, when the TV show was filmed and they got a lot of publicity, people have very mixed feelings with hypnosis. Mostly because during the Soviet era, there was this one famous hypnotist that was shown on TV, and hypnosis is covered in all things mystic and losing control and so on and so on and so on. And people remember that. And
I think
Hollywood.
I know, I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
I know
Kaspersky.
who you were
Yeah,
talking about. I think
yeah,
I remember those programs.
yeah. So even when I was trying to tell everybody that this is based on science, I got a lot of hate mail, hundreds of hate mail. I got people under my window saying and shouting bad things. Yeah, 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 yeah. Didn't get any death threats though, but really nasty stuff in my emails, in my messenger inbox, people just shouting stuff at me. And when you get that kind of attention, you grow another layer of the skin, it's the public eye dermis. So I grew that.
Mhm.
That stuff still gets to me at times, but I know that it's not about me. It's about that person who's saying that out loud. I touched some nerve or some trust issues that they have, and they're not saying things about me, they're saying things about themselves.
Exactly.
And that's how the story continued me with a lots of ups and downs with depression. There's been throughout the 8 years from that TV show, it had two seasons. It was top 10 show, 140,000 viewers each time. A lot of publicity, a lot of magazine covers and newspaper covers and so on and so on and so on. More than 3,000 clients have been through my sessions from that time. I've had depression, I think, 3 times starting the show, before that as well. I've had 3 suicidal episodes since that time. The last one was this spring. And it's been a road filled with ups and downs. But thankfully, each time you go through some cycle, you get a bit stronger and a bit deeper, and you know the tools or the mechanism of the loop you're going through, so why you're going there and how you can come up now. And this all led me to do my master's in behavioral and applied neurosciences. So I'm at that point right now, and I'm on a medical leave with burnout just as we speak.
Really?
Yeah.
So, and I try not to ever say I told you so, but here I go. I'm saying it here. Look at all this. So what did I say at the start? Look at this story. So interesting. So much to learn from, honestly. And things like you overcoming really, really tough things, the critics, the naysayers, the haters, those kind of things, depression. And even now, what's going on with you right now? What's happening?
Well, right now I know that I get the sad episodes during the winter because it's dark and cold in here, so that's seasonal affective disorder. And I try to get out to the warmer lands every winter. So I know that that episode is coming. It's getting darker now, but I am in a better place thanks to the burnout and thanks to me understanding of what led to that burnout and how can I not work in the same way I used to. There cannot be any grind. 38 years of grind led me to this place of me knowing that, okay, I work like this. This is how my brain works. And these are the puzzle pieces I can actually work with.
Mhm.
All the other stuff must go.
Right, so obviously I want to talk a little more about what exactly led you. You mentioned years of working like that. Um, and what you think about it, what you're gonna do about it, how that. But also you mentioned when you were telling your story about finishing what you started. Actually, I can relate to that so much because I was the same. I could never quit anything. I finished, I don't know, everything. I was doing so many things and I was finishing those things. And I think our society overall is like that. And whether you like it or not, whether it's hard or not, whether you have passion for it or not, just finish it, right? Like you said, just grind. And do you think that by doing that often, we deviate from or we forget who we are?
For sure, because we grind from our head, right? But we
Mm,
make the decisions with our intuition
tell me
or
more.
our
Tell
heart,
me.
whoever wants what expression to use.
I'd like to dive deeper into this topic. So is this knowledge coming from your neuroscience studies? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So the rumination and the overthinking and striving towards a goal often is like the tough feeling of I have to do this, and this also brings up rumination, feeling of self-worthlessness, and overthinking. And what it does is it keeps us on the loop of identifying the problem all over and over and over again. It's a negativity loop, and these loops, these overthinking episodes, the self-worth that's just coming out of your head. You're making decisions based on whatever false, I don't know, ideas the society or your parents or anything else has given you. And it's not coming from within the real passion, the real
So in other
inside.
words, like we value ourselves based on how we can complete things, which we want to do based on how we think we will be valued
A lot
or
of
be
people have
valued
that.
by others.
Yeah, a lot of people have that, the mechanism inside of them. Yeah.
Yeah, so everything kind of is a projection of the external world. And do you think, like, I was even talking about this, I think yesterday about school, because it's back to school time. My daughter is back in school, and I keep thinking about things, how they teach and the education system and how education system is set up to teach us to get better grades, to basically do things or to learn for better grades instead of enjoying the process, learning how that process can happen differently, maybe learning where I like something or don't like something, or even sometimes learning how to apply this knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that education system contributes to this sort of a confusion why I'm doing things that I'm doing?
I somewhat agree with you. It does, but I think it depends a lot on the teachers and the parents as well. I have a son as well. He went to school, and I think our contribution as parents can be educating and supporting our children to be curious, to apply stuff, to have those open conversations about why do you need it and why do you not need to get good grades, but
Mhm.
actually understand and why that understanding is important. So that's what I try to teach my son, that I don't care about the grades, but I do care that you get that information and you understand why it is applicable whenever. For example, history lessons. His history books told us our trip this spring. So we went to see what what it actually was, what he
Mhm.
learned.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and I agree with that. And so back to the grind topic. I was wondering, how did you when or what made you recognize the grind that you had been grinding and that you had been stuck in that loop, as you mentioned?
So that's been continual progress for the past, I think, 3 years, with the culmination of being this the beginning of this summer when I took the medical leave. And the how came with me having, well, I teach hypnosis classes and I have students practice on me at times. I also have a very awesome therapist. And the how or the why came to me within our sessions when I noticed that my usual system of this is the goal, this is me, will just push through it, don't care what the body says, will just go with it with full force. It doesn't work anymore. I don't want to use that force. I don't want to use that anger, or I'll show you how it goes, the energy, the power. It's wrong. It breaks my body, it breaks my soul.
And
So,
so, you know what's interesting, and I relate to that so much, and my recent revelations about myself as well,
mhm,
made me understand those things. However, sometimes I do get confused, like it's ups and downs. It's not
mhm,
like, you once realize it and it's all rainbows and unicorns.
mhm,
You kind of like, isn't like you sometimes feel it, sometimes don't, sometimes feel it, sometimes
mhm,
don't, right? It kind of comes and goes in waves. So is there a way to sort of differentiate between that conditioning and what your body is like reading your body or reading your intuition?
mhm. There are ways to separate that. However, I think everyone should keep in mind that this is a continual progress and there will be ups and downs until you change, until you start changing the pattern behind it. So
Mhm.
whenever the pattern is fully changed, it doesn't go up and down anymore. It doesn't just come. It's another pattern instead of it. So now how everyone can differentiate from it is, I think, with very simple questions. And to get those simple answers from yourself is to go out from your normal, ordinary place of being into an environment that's not you, preferably nature, or a cafe or somewhere where you are in a different environment. That
Mhm.
helps. And then either moving or just letting your mind wander, you can start to question. You can actually feel if the answers give you attention, or like attention in the body, or they come naturally. So I think that's the best way to differentiate it, because when you think with your head, your body may get a little tension, or it may keep on looping in your head. Your intuition just comes to you, and it usually comes when you're in nature, when you're walking, and it's easy.
Mm.
It feels effortless.
Is it because you tune into nature's rhythm and, things like that?
Yeah, and the movement, well, fresh air, less people.
And I thanks for actually tomorrow I'm going to work from a cafe or something like
Mhm,
that, I for ages and ages I didn't realize this. And I didn't have a proper office. I had a little corner back in Ireland
mhm,
in our house. And I remember I was so attached to that corner, and it used to be my safe place where my business was my safe place. And I just, like, when life used to get tough, I couldn't wait to just get into that corner and shut myself from everything else and just, was my comfort. But now I'm realizing, later on, I realized it was not really, it was also a struggle place. It was a safe place from one point of view, but from the other point of view, it was a struggle place. as well, because I was not getting out of that box and out of that normal. And you know, then we moved countries a year ago from Ireland to Lithuania, and things started happening completely differently in my life, in my business. It's crazy. You know, I was like, I don't want to believe that it's just because of the environment, but the reality is
Mhm.
that environment has a huge effect, especially when you don't change it at all over
Mhm.
time, right?
Mhm. But what you also can do is build small habits to tune into your intuition. And the best way that we are actually used to from early childhood is, or for example, you and me, most probably, I don't know if many people have that around the world, but I know in Baltics we have a lot of woods. We have that opportunity to go into the nature, and there's just birds and bees. There's nothing else. There's just nature. So we've grown up with that. That's our luxury.
It's precious. I can tell you now just by comparing, having lived in somewhere else and now back in Lithuania, I like right here in front of me, every time if I get tired or I run out of thoughts or something, I look from the window and there are lots of trees over
Mhm.
there. And as soon as I look at the trees, I feel that I calm down.
Yeah.
It's a miracle.
Mhm. So that's a trigger for you. Your brain has created a trigger that nature is a safe place, but not the safe as your cubicle was because you were either afraid or whatever you were feeling. That was another trigger. And you can create these environmental triggers using sounds, smells, visions to create to bring you into your own flow. So, for example, in the mornings, I have a ritual with tea, with sitting down, looking what I have to do. So my brain knows what I have to do. And it's really expensive if my brain doesn't know what to do, but it gets me into that intuition place. So what can be your triggers for your intuition listening practice?
For me, I have a ritual as well.
Mm-hmm.
I normally listen to I prep my daughter for school. She leaves,
Mm-hmm.
I make myself a coffee and I listen to a book, usually
Mm-hmm.
something related to my business, something on a topic that I love, and all these intuition kind of things is my favorite topics at the moment. And I think through what I need to do and I listen to how I feel. Back in the day, I used to, now that when I think about it, I used to almost be a bit like numb. I would just sit at my desk regardless, without even having a clue what I was gonna do. Just maybe I would have a list of things, but I wouldn't feel anything in relation
Mm-hmm.
to that list.
Mm-hmm.
Now I and I wear emotions when I wake up first thing in the morning. I try to think of what emotion I want to put,
Mm-hmm.
that day. So for example, today it's freedom, you
Mm-hmm.
know, it's so so that's pretty much, and then I do yoga at some point and things like that as well. But having said that, and I feel that sometimes I need to tweak a little bit, right? And that's what you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned. We get
Mm-hmm.
to that environment. Do they stop when you use the same triggers again and again? Do they stop working as triggers?
No,
No.
they come more ingrained in our brain. So when we use triggers, but sometimes we need a change because you're a creative person. New environment brings new ideas, new people bring new ideas, new points of view. So otherwise you're just in your box.
That's why. Okay, yeah. Because, okay, so at some point early in the year, I decided, I need to go for a walk every day.
Mhm.
I come in. And so in the beginning, because it's a new place, oh, wow, look at that. Wow, look at that. Look at that tree, look at that house. And then after a few walks, obviously, most things are familiar. I stopped noticing them. You know, you kind of need to, right? You want to stay in that state of awareness, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So from what I hear is that your brain at times craves for novelty, something new.
Yes,
So
maybe that
schedule that in every week.
maybe it has it's related. And do you know your human design? I'm a manifesting generator, apparently. Not only like I should not even be completing things or, you know, working in a linear way based on my human design. And that was such a liberating thing to find out a few months ago. Oh my God, I'm not even supposed to finish things if I don't feel it. I might go back, right?
Mhm.
Do the same thing, but I don't necessarily have to, okay, if I get inspired to do something different today, you know, I shouldn't stick to that because, and I remember the struggle. Yes, from my head, intellectually, I can create a lot of things, but obviously, as you know, that's limited, isn't it?
Exactly. And I think we all should have the freedom of not having to complete what doesn't feel right. And on the other hand, as business owners, we gotta wear different hats at times just to complete things so we can keep our apartments and and travels and trips.
Okay, so I have a dilemma, and maybe you can help, and maybe other people have this as well. So if we say that we have the freedom to change our minds, we have the freedom to not complete if we feel like doing something else instead, how are we gonna achieve anything, our goals? Let's say today, let's say I had an idea for a product and I started creating that product, and then kind of wore out that initial enthusiasm and inspiration, kind of, you know, vanished or is not as strong anymore. And now let me do something else. When am I gonna finish anything? When am I gonna put it up for sale? And those kind of things. How to deal with that?
So there's so many different layers we can look at. We can look at the energetic layer. We can look at how our brain works or business-wise. Many different boxes where to look at. So when I look at the energetic box, I look at the creation as the source being me, myself. So when I start to create something, it starts within me. It's an energetic layer or an energetic building inside of me. And when I get an idea, is it actually good for my business? I have to feel it in my core. The camera doesn't go slow, but in my core, I gotta feel it. It has to be right. I can sit on the idea for multiple of days and it has to just be right. It has to feel right. And then I can go and create it. So that's the energetic layer for me. This is how I do it. And if I don't create it with energy, I create it with my head and it may sell, but it's from my head. I'm gonna get stuck at some time.
I love that actually. Okay, so when we create, we listen to our body, we listen to our intuition, we let the energy lead. When
Yeah.
we are implementing something, that's a different story, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's when we use our head, and we may have to do sometimes things we don't have to, like I don't like scheduling. I really don't. At times I love Excel, at times I don't love Excel, but I will do it because that's how the idea gets to fruition. It gets out there.
Yeah, and the reason why I'm asking this for myself and also for the audience, and I know lots of people in life who never complete anything, right?
Mhm,
And they would be like, I told you, it's good, it's a good thing to not
mhm,
complete things, right? But
mhm,
they not exactly like while we are saying that everyone should be free to not finish something, but that's not the same as not
mhm.
doing. or not finishing anything ever, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a fine line between, but I absolutely love this topic, and I, like I mentioned, it set me free when I found out that it's
Mm-hmm.
okay for me to change my mind. Because from
Mm-hmm.
very small, I was the finisher.
Mm-hmm.
Finisher, everyone else. I used to finish everyone else's stuff, all the time as well. Okay, so that's very, very useful. Thank you for that insight. And so the current burnout you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
what what are your steps? I'm wondering, what are you gonna do about it? What are you doing about it already? Because
Mm-hmm.
you obviously you spotted it, you know about it,
Mm-hmm.
it's there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's next?
So the burnout came because I had too many things on my plate, and I had the immense drive of finishing them all.
Mm,
And I know that I have the permission not to finish, and that's where the confusion came in. So right now I am actually I'm taking a break-ish, because I'm still doing things energetically. I'm building a new course inside, just trying out what the layers are, how I can give the best value, and how people can receive the best value. So it's the energetic layer at first. I'm no, I know that the brain needs habits. Our brains need movement, sunlight, vitamins, 2 to 3 meals a day at certain times. Our brains need certainty, and they need it to be timed. And then our brains also need something to look forward to. So I'm giving my brain that. I'm giving it schedules, lists of things to do, but those lists are in accordance with me. And I've thrown out everything else from my table. It's just project I think I'm gonna work on next. It's my son, my home, our trip to Spain that's coming soon, and my studies in the university, and that's all. Nothing else. No other projects are on my table right now.
So how does it feel lighter? How does it feel to have made these choices?
It's excruciating pain at first because I had to give up all of those things with the idea that I may never start them. I may give them up for good. And that for me is it's painful. It's like I'm giving up my child, a thing that I used to love, for example, photography. I used to love it. I'm awesome at it. People love, and whenever I start photography, just clients pour in.
Mm.
It's not that anymore. I can still do it at times, but not as work. No, just had to put it away, or something else I felt passionately about. And it's a sense of feeling grief
Mm.
because I'm letting that go.
Mm.
And with that comes an immense sense of relaxation, because I'm not carrying that energy again. I'm not carrying those thoughts, those ideas, those things I have to do in the back of my head. They're off the table. I don't have to do those. I don't have to generate ideas. I don't have endless possibilities. I have one track. Once that track is complete, then I will start creating another one. And that's freedom for me.
Yeah, thank you so much for normalizing this. Like, there is no other way, right? If we want to
Yeah.
create freedom right now, and like you and I know, right, that the results come from freedom,
Mhm.
not the other way around, right?
Exactly.
So if there is this part of the process where you have to say no to certain things, and it's hard,
Mhm.
and it's
It
normal
is.
that it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's normal that it feels like grief. Oh my
It
God,
does.
it's crazy, but it does.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's not always very, very clear what you should be saying no to, right?
Yeah.
What if and I think that's where the confusion and the part of the difficulty is that what if I'm making a mistake, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you know that you're not making a mistake?
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is, you don't know. You don't know if you're making a mistake because it may not be a mistake. So what's a mistake actually?
So how to mitigate this sense of difficulty? And I
Mm-hmm.
know you grew up in the lab, so
Mm-hmm.
you are used to testing things. You saw testing all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Test, test, doesn't work out. Let's do
Mm-hmm.
it again.
Exactly.
Do it again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a test, right?
It is test, and you can always choose another thing, and life doesn't run out. But to make those decisions, I just want to come back to it. I think the most important thing for us as entrepreneurs or whoever is doing changes and throwing things out of their table is to have space, and at times that space isn't being created by us, but it can be created for us. For I have my therapist who holds space so that I can feel safe and I can make those decisions.
Mm.
Maybe you have someone just to hold space for you. It's an intention. There's no questions in that space. Maybe there are if you're seeing a therapist, but that's actually, I think, the energetical part of it again,
Mm. Yeah,
holding
I want
space.
to ask a question. So, but first, headspace creation, and thanks for actually touching on it because that what I actually have been doing for almost the whole summer,
Mm-hmm.
creating space after making certain decisions that were not the best decisions, after working too much, after being anxious about who knows what, even,
Mm-hmm.
you know. It feels like I'm taking a long break. However, I've been like working in me, but
Mm-hmm.
thankfully at this stage, I already know, I understand that, well, I can try and create conditions for that space to
Mm-hmm.
emerge,
Yeah,
because in that space are the answers.
exactly.
It's crazy, but the answers are not in the thinking. The answers are in the space, in that
Mm-hmm.
space.
Mm-hmm.
It's so such a good thing to understand. And how we create space, at least we rest. At least if we feel the nudge
Mm-hmm.
to rest. A lot of people are, especially entrepreneurs, they feel losers if they take a break. They feel guilty.
No,
I don't know.
no, no, no. Breaks are needed. Our brain needs to be idle, not to do anything for intuition and solutions to emerge. There's a reason why in school you have to sleep and then go back to school and then sleep and go back to school, because during that idle time your brain puts A and B together to form C. So that's what space creates, and idle time. That's not losing, that's actually giving yourself an advantage.
As a neuroscientist, so it sounds
Yeah.
like, oh, it's just one of those things that some people believe, but as you can say that as a neuroscientist, it's science.
Yeah, it's science. Yeah.
Ah, very cool. So here is the other question. For somebody who is super busy and who is still fighting to generate some consistency and consistent income, however, is stuck in the grind, in the loop, in the struggle. And saying no or even changing how you do things can be very, very scary. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so am I gonna need to regroup again? Am I gonna delay the results? Am I gonna struggle to pay the bills or whatever is coming? You know, how to get out of that loop?
Mm-hmm.
Any
So,
advice?
so if someone is struggling, I kind of think that that mindset is a high stress level mindset where there's no space for any off time. So what that person is actually doing with that overthinking and with that stress, they're what overthinking does is it turns off our critical thinking and time management. So you overthinking and being in that stress are actually not using your critical thinking and time planning. You are using whatever resources your brain has to keep you in the same rut and loop. So just for you to know and acknowledge that that's your normal right now, and that's okay. But if you want to start taking slow steps out of it, do it 1% at a time. Just one little thing you can change, the same thing day and day and day again. Maybe like a 10-minute break for a month. Then maybe you can, the next month, you can put something off the table. And it's gonna feel weird at first because your brain wants to protect you. It needs to protect you. So it's gonna create different kinds of feelings for you to quit the change because your brain does not want you to change the current situation. It wants you to be on the loop because it's safe. Your grind is safe for you.
Yeah, so I think what we are saying is that if you are grinding and are not seeing results, adequate results,
Mm-hmm.
it's a symptom that something is off,
Yeah.
right? And we can talk, I think it might be different things for different people, what
Yeah.
exactly is off. But also that grind then also becomes the reason of being stuck in that loop.
Exactly.
Symptom, but it's the reason as well for being in that place. So really it's breaking the pattern.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other way.
Mm-hmm. And it's usually hard to do by yourself. You should get
Hmm.
someone to be with you along the journey who knows.
I agree. I agree. It's very hard. Well, lucky, not lucky, I don't know. I think that place, I was for too long in that place. When it did happen, it happened. I had a revelation, download from the universe, whatever. I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw it.
Mm-hmm.
I saw as well how certain coaches were not suitable
Mm-hmm.
for me, so need to also be careful, right?
Mm-hmm.
What you choose, who you choose
Mm-hmm.
as
Yeah.
your coach. And for me personally, the reason for the grind was, and I knew it, like some people have certain a level of awareness. I knew that, and I'm saying these things because it might help somebody. I was not, some people say it's purpose, the lack of sense of purpose. Why am I doing this? I knew a lot of strategies and whatever, but I was not really, like, it wasn't connecting to me how I should be using these strategies and why helping who, and with what kind of problem, and things like that. So when it finally connected, then it resolved. Many other things sort of resolved for me, but I think it can be different for different people,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Everyone has their own unique blueprint.
Yeah, yeah. And so I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess with this, what we are also saying, that just because told you follow this strategy or that strategy doesn't mean you should be jumping into it without sort of filtering it through you, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I think that's the most important note to take from all of this is everyone does it in their own unique way, even if there's a framework. You're unique and special. Everyone has their own blueprint. You can't follow everyone else's steps.
Yeah, and the evidence speaks for itself. Like many people use the same framework or strategy and get different results. Why?
Mm-hmm. Because we're different.
Most people don't get any results, right? So, so yeah, wow. So that's a very good sort of a conclusion that came out from, and I want people to hear that, and I was like that, you know, I was learning strategy after strategy after
Mm-hmm.
while seeing some other people come online with their own thing and take off. Crap marketing, where was, you know, not very good positioning, but they just take off. Now I know it's all energy. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's all the sense of being useful, you know, and a contribution. Yeah, because if you're an entrepreneur, you your job is to contribute,
Mm-hmm.
to the collective, right? So and some people I was aware of and the answers were just here, like around me. You know, it wasn't clicking. So anyway, so yeah, need to break the pattern. If you're stuck in the grind for a while, not seeing adequate results, something needs to change. Sometimes it's just a little tiny shift of understanding why you are doing this in your head, right?
Exactly.
Mhm. Okay, I'm looking at the time. I love this conversation so much, you know, and but it's been an hour now, and so I want to thank you. Really, like so many insights, such a beautiful energy, and you know, I might have you again. I'm sure there's so much to learn from you. And the final question that I have, when you hear from grind to grace, what goes through your head or body, or, you know, what does it mean to you?
Mm. So let me actually pass it through from my body. I'll see what energy tells me. And this is a neuroscientist it's speaking, right?
Mhm.
I'll see what the energy.
I know it's
What?
crazy.
Yeah. We all got many sides. I'm grateful to have a sharp intuition that can tell me about myself or my clients. And I've built it over the years, but from grind to grace. Well, the first thing that came to me is a journey. And I think it goes with a lot of people that it's a journey, right? But I think it's a lifelong journey. Whatever the starting point and the finishing point is, it's a journey. And on that journey, we will have ups and downs, and we will have continuous loops. We will have new loops. We will have new tools, old tools. But it's still gonna come down to us being on the journey
Mm,
and reminding ourselves that it's still a journey. And
yeah.
it's okay to be off. It's okay to not know and be confused. And it's okay to be uniquely weird because I'm weird. I know I'm weird. I'm fully embrace it.
I love weirdos.
Yeah, me too.
I
I'm
love
a weird entrepreneur. I'll shout it to the world. I'll do my things my own way. If people click, they click. If they don't click, they don't click. I will move on. I have my people.
exactly. I think that's what's beautiful as well. Grace to me also means that I do my thing. I work from my true self.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm truthful to myself. And then
Mm-hmm.
I would say, if somebody clicks, that's great. If they don't,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't even trigger that much anymore, you know, once you get to that place. within you.
Yeah, but it's been a journey, right?
It is a journey. And one of the reasons I did this podcast, during that download,
Mm-hmm.
this podcast was done. There was no option not to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, this is it. I'm doing it. It's done. You know, and I knew that one of the reasons to do this podcast was my own journey.
Mm-hmm.
So to send a message to my listener, but also what this podcast is gonna do, the work that it's gonna do on me. And I think a lot of things that we do, I'd love more people to see what they do as, you know, part of it is work on them, part of their growth, you know.
Our
And
growth is not separate from us. Our growth happens inside of us.
that's it. That's it. Thank you. That was beautiful. And so just to finalize, where can people find you? What is the best place?
Mm-hmm. So I think I do have a mailing list, and I think the bi-monthly emails that I send out are like long love letters to the soul, to the energy, and to the curious mind. They hold neuroscience and energy inside of them. So maybe those bi-monthly love letters are our thing. So if you go to marissaar.com, MARISSAAR.com.
Yeah, I'll put the link in the show notes. So
Yeah, so down below is the join the newsletter, and I think that's where we can connect the best. I'm not the best in socials, no, but I love writing.
right, website
And
is fine, is great, you know.
yeah,
So I'm gonna put the link in the show notes.
and
And
I wanted to thank you for having me on this conversation, even though yesterday my body told me that, hey, Maris, it's like the pace is fine, but the body needs time to heal and reset. So today I'm with a very beautiful, sexy voice. And having me here today and sharing a part of your story or your own path has been it's been wonderful to hear, and I feel honored actually to be here,
thank you.
to share the space, to share the energy. Yeah, it's been an energetic exchange. I can feel it.
Yeah, I loved it. It felt so good. I mean, insights, whatever, but the reality is it felt really good.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, thank you again, and thanks everyone for listening. I'm waiting for you again on my next episode. I don't know what it's gonna be about um, just yet, but either way, and also, let's spread the message about freedom first. So follow, share, tell, and bye for now.